8.1 Inequalities. This is the last video for day 1. This is part 4. This is the checkpoint for part C of your notes. At the end of this video, your notes should be complete front and back, and we're going to start on Tuesday morning here.
All right, so I'm going to go through graphing a single inequality, and then you're going to graph from there too. So part C is graphing an inequality, and we just went over the vocabulary. The graph of an inequality includes an open circle or a closed circle, and a shaded region, either shaded left or shaded right by using an arrow. So I have to read this out loud, and I know some of you don't like to talk out loud in class, but you really have to hear it for your mind to work. So sometimes it's easier just to talk to yourself, and that's why we're working in groups, so that you can hear what other people are saying. So we have this variable y, and we have this symbol, and we have this number. So we have a left side of the inequality, we have a right side of the inequality, but we have to kind of relate that by words. So this is y is less than or equal to. That's what that symbol is. So I'm going to write that symbol out. Y is less than or equal to -3. So what kind of numbers satisfy that? Anything that's less than or equal to -3. Anything that's to the left, smaller, further away from 0 than -3 is. Those are the numbers that are less than or equal to -3. So on my number line, I have to place what we call the boundary point. The boundary point is when your inequality is simplified. The left and the right are both simplified. It's what you're comparing that variable to. So I'm comparing y to -3, so -3 is considered my boundary point. So I'm going to place -3 on a number line, and I'm going to give myself a little of the other numbers around it. So -4, this would be -5, -2, -1. So I gave myself some numbers. I didn't clutter up the graph by showing everything. This is where -3 is located, -5, -1. So now what am I going to do? I'm going to place a circle on the boundary point. But is it open or is it closed? And what tells you that is this bar underneath. So remember from video 1, we learned that there's 4 symbols. We have the 2 that do not have equal to, and then we have 2 that have the equal to. The difference, when you see these symbols, we are using open circles, because we do not have an include factor of equal to. So we're not including that number. But when we do have the equal to underneath, we are using closed circles, because we're including the boundary point. So can y be equal to -3? That's the question. Since y has the equal to bar, it can be -3. So on my circle, I have to include that in my shaded region, because this answer for y can be -3 to make this inequality true. And if it can be -3 because of this symbol, I shade my circle in. So remember, if these are the symbols in your inequality, use open circles on the boundary point. If these are the symbols in your inequality, use closed circles on the boundary point, because you're including the boundary point as a solution. So where are all the numbers that are less than or equal to? All the numbers that are to the left are less than or equal to. So I'm going to shade all those numbers to the left of -3. And to do that, I just draw a bold arrow from the closed circle all the way to the end of the number line, and I draw my arrow, because I'm including all of those solutions. So -5 makes this statement true, and -10 makes this statement true, and -50 makes this statement true. Any number that is less than or equal to -3, including -3, makes that inequality true. And by shading that arrow to the left, I'm including all those. So you want to make sure that you always put an arrow, you always follow it to the end of the number line given, and you give some examples by giving me things to the left and to the right. So does -1 make that true? No, because -1 isn't in the shaded region. That's not an answer. Only the solutions are part of the solution set in the shaded region. So I want you to try these. Set up your boundary point. Decide by the symbols if it's an open or a closed circle on that boundary point, and then read that off. Are the numbers greater than the boundary point? That would be to the right. Are the numbers less than? That will be shaded to the left. And you really have to say these out loud so that you can hear if you're using the words less than or if you're using the words greater than. So take a couple seconds, pause the video, and try the checkpoint. At this moment, at the end of these 4, your note should be complete.